Year 134 before Christ, Lusitanos Viriato has died, Celtiberians, Numancia has fallen, Hispanics. All attempts at resistance to the invader on the peninsula have been defeated. Hispania at last will be Roman. Or not, will it? The truth is that no. There are still many campaigns to prepare, many battles to fight. Thousands, tens of thousands of corpses will carpet the fields and blood will water every corner of this land before the Hispanic peoples are finally subjected to the power of Rome. Unfortunately, from the fall of Numancia to the war of Sertorius, everything is very poorly documented for two reasons. Appian, who you already know is the historian I use for my research, considerably reduces this period to just 2 pages, covering half a century of history with them. On the other hand, we cannot consider the writings of Titus Livius about this era, as those volumes were lost over the years. So, as has happened more than once, I will try to create a cohesive, organized, and plausible narrative. Let's go. After the fall of Numancia, Rome expanded Hispania inward and sent 10 senators to organize the territories conquered in recent years. During the following years, it is known that there were some battles and campaigns on the peninsula, as some praetors or consuls of these years returned from Hispania and celebrated a triumph, for which it was required to have finished with at least 5,000 enemies. The lack of data gives us a break in the year 121 before Christ. The Balearic Islands had hardly received any attention from Rome, so these islands were filling up with wrongdoers, bandits, and most importantly, pirates. These men were not usually natives, but came from other lands such as Sardinia and southern Gaul, something similar to what would happen in the Caribbean in more than 1,500 years. This piracy affected trade and prevented the free movement of people within the Republic, so these pirates had to be eliminated. For the task, the consul Quintus Caecilius Metellus prepared a fleet and set course for the islands. As we already saw in the top 5 severe tribes, whose link I leave up here in case you haven't seen it yet, the Balearic slingers were tremendously precise and feared in the Mediterranean. In fact, they were so precise and lethal that they could pierce the hulls of Roman ships, causing them to take on water. To prevent this, Quintus Metellus ordered his ships to be lined with skins to cushion the stone throws, and it ended with the taking of Majorca, where 3 were installed. It concluded with the taking of Majorca, where 3,000 discharged veterans were settled who were given lands to work on. For the moment, piracy had disappeared, although it would be a recurring issue throughout the history of Rome. In the year 1914 BC, various bands of Lusitanian raiders reappeared, threatening peace in further Spain. They were independent bands, so they did not represent a serious threat. Gaius Marius, in the role of proprietor, was in charge of ending these bands. Yes, the very same Gaius Marius, the reformer of the Roman legions. If the name doesn't ring a bell, I'll leave the link to the video above where I step out of Hispania a bit to give context to what's coming. In the year 120 before Christ, the Cimbri probably migrated from the province of Jutland due to a natural disaster that triggered a rise in sea level, flooding their lands. They could be Celts, Germans, or even a mix of both. They migrated south, joining along the way with the Teutons, and together on October 6th of the year 106 before Christ, they crushed 2 consular armies in the Battle of Arausio, next to the Rhone. By life's coincidences, one of the survivors of the battle was Quintus Sertorius, whom we will get to know very deeply later on. The coalition of Cimbri and Teutons could have invaded Italy, but they separated, giving time to Gaius Marius, elected for his 5 consecutive years to prepare the legions and defeat the invader. We will follow the Cimbri, who crossed the Pyrenees and dedicated themselves to looting the villages and devastating the fields. They did not attack any walled city, as they lacked the necessary preparation. They devastated the northern half of Hispania Citerior, but they made a mistake. They invaded Celtiberia. And the Celtiberians, seeing that they were being invaded by the Cimbri, assembled an army and stood up to them. defeating them and forcing the invaders to retreat and flee through the Pyrenees. It's interesting how a cycle of wins and losses has formed. The Romans defeated the Celtiberians, who in turn defeated the Cimbri, who in turn defeated the Romans. The Cimbri joined forces again with the Teutons, and the coalition was defeated and disbanded after successive victories by Gaius Marius, who was henceforth considered the third founder of Rome. In the year 98 before Christ, Titus Didius, holding the position of consul, was sent to Hispania to quell a revolt of the Aravaci, ending with about 20,000 enemies shortly after arriving in the province. Titus Didius' stay continued until the year 93 before Christ, now holding the position of proconsul, at which point he returned to Rome to celebrate a triumph for his campaigns. The consul had some brilliant ideas. For example, after a battle with the Aravaci, he collected half of the Roman corpses under the cover of night. When the Aravaci arrived the next day to do the same with theirs, they saw that their dead were more than double that of the Romans, so thinking that the defeat of their people was assured, they accepted peace. Although the consul at times became as severe as Galba or Crassus, devastating everything in his path. For example, when he took the city of Termes, he simply forced its inhabitants to live on a plain without walls, while an example of his bloodthirsty personality comes with the city of Calenda. When he took the city after 9 months of siege, he sold all its inhabitants as slaves, including the children. Taking advantage of the fact that the city had been deserted, he offered it to a nearby tribe that was dedicated to looting the Roman province. The deal, he gave them the city and they stopped attacking the Romans. When the members of the tribe came to register in order to live in their new city, Tito Dibio surrounded them and slaughtered them, again including children. The revolt was quelled and Tito Dibio returned to Rome to celebrate a triumph. For his part, in the year 96 before Christ, Publio Licinio Crasso was sent with the rank of proconsul to Hispania Ulterior, where he fought against new Lusitanian uprisings seeking to free themselves from Roman power, but again they were independent bands. In the year 93 before Christ, shortly after Tito Dibio left, Caio Valerio Flacco was sent with the rank of proconsul to Hispania Ulterior to quell a new Celtiberian revolt. There he killed more than 20,000 Celtiberians, and with that, he began a new period of peace in the peninsula, until the appearance on the scene of a brilliant and charismatic man, a one-eyed man, loved by the tribes of Iberia. His name, Quintus Sertorius. This concludes this chapter of the history of Hispania. I hope you enjoyed it, and don't hesitate to leave me any questions you may have in the comments or any ideas you think could help improve the quality of the videos. Also, don't hesitate to hit the like button if you enjoyed it and subscribe if you want to see how our story continues.